After global warming causes World War III to break out in 2045, the fighting continues for a marathon of 20 years. The population decreases to 3 billion in the process. The world is only saved through the use of magic, and now the remaining countries in the world are all racing to become the best in magic. Our talentless and pathetic protagonist, Tatsuya, enrolls in the famous magic high school with his sister. Tatsuya and Miyuki Shiba arrive at First High School, one of the top schools for magicians. As they enter the campus, Miyuki is upset that her brother was only chosen as a reserve, even though he scored highest in the written exam. Tatsuya, with his cool guy act, tells her that practical skills are valued more than prowess with written exams. Tatsuya adds that he was even lucky to have been selected for the school. Miyuki still argues and says, nobody can beat Tatsuya in combat. She's about to say something, but Tatsuya cuts her off and says there's nothing that can be done about it. He instead encourages her and tells her that he'll be watching her progress. After they separate, Tatsuya walks away and thinks about how the school only accepts students they've acknowledged to have excellent magical abilities. Just then, 2 students pass him and make a comment about how he is a weed, which is the same as calling him a no-good, talentless fool. A girl shows up and introduces herself as the student council president, Sagusa. She asks if there's anything she can do for him, and Tatsuya notices a CAD on her hand. Just as he introduces himself to and mentions his name, a short girl with orange hair jumps in the conversation without a care in the world. Tatsuya takes the opportunity and excuses himself. At the matriculation ceremony, Tatsuya is introduced to Mizuki Shibata, our big melons. I care about everyone's character, and also Enka Chiba, our classic tomboy character. They introduce themselves to each other, and the red-haired tomboy comments about how all their names rhyme. Up on the stage of the auditorium is Tatsuya's sister Miyuki, who gives a very generic speech about how the roses are blooming and whatnot. In the hallway of the school, Mizuki asks Tatsuya if the person who gave the speech is his sister. He confirms and says he is impressed by how she was able to ascertain this. He realizes she has the ability to see auras and makes up his mind to be careful around her so she doesn't see his secret. Just then, Miyuki walks towards them to talk with her brother. Mizuki and Enka, who are also there, introduce themselves to her. The student council president and her vice stand behind Miyuki, clearly planning on adding her to her ranks like cold military generals. Tatsuya asks his sister if she's done with them, but the student council president interferes by saying they were only talking to her about school. The guy beside her seems upset for some reason and glares at Tatsuya just before he leaves. Miyuki apologizes, but her brother holds her cheek softly and tells her it's not a problem. Enka and Mizuki watch on as they see the hopefully not romantic sight before them. Back at home, Miyuki goes to the kitchen to make some coffee, and Tatsuya notices that something is wrong. He asks her, and she tells him that she just got off the phone with their parents, who congratulated her for getting into the school. She asks Tatsuya if he got a message from them, but he says he didn't. This upsets her, and she freezes the counter in the kitchen with her ice magic. Tatsuya goes to comfort her and tells her that everything is okay. The next scene shows Tatsuya taking down some monk-looking bald ninjas in white. He fights skillfully, very unlike the worthless trash the Blooms in the academy think he is. Miyuki is there too, and meets with the boss, Mr. Yakumo, who turns out to be a perversive freak. Tatsuya comes to the rescue with a swinging attack, but is blocked by the boss, and they proceed to spar. Unfortunately for our Mac, he has his butt handed to him. His sister kneels beside him and offers an apology. He tells her it's fine, and she uses her magic to clean both him and herself up. Back at school, we meet one more character to add to the group, Leonhardt Saijo, who is totally not in love with Enka. The class teacher seems to have been replaced as well, by someone that Tatsuya is not surprised to see. Later, a group of Blooms attack Tatsuya and his friends for talking to Miyuki. During the fight, Enka shows off her disarming skills, and Tatsuya reveals that he can read activation sequences. His power is analysis and subterfuge. The members of the student council show up and quell the situation after Tatsuya steps forward to say that they were only trying to teach each other spells. The tense situation from the last episode is diffused by the magnanimous President Saigusa. Still, Morisaki, the guy who was angry at Tatsuya, refuses to acknowledge Tatsuya. Now that the fight is over, the girl Tatsuya stops using an attack spell, approaches, and apologizes to him for causing so much trouble. She is Honoka Mitsui and appears to have a gigantic crush on him. She asks him if it would be okay to walk with him to the station. Her request surprises everyone around. While the group is relaxing later, Tatsuya reveals to everyone that he knows Enka's kendo stick is also a CAD, but that he isn't confident enough to tinker with it. Enka tells him that it is impressive enough that he's able to tell that it was a CAD. The next morning, the student council president runs up to Tatsuya and Miyuki, inviting them both to lunch so that she can discuss something with them. Both Tatsuya and Miyuki arrive at the council room, where they have lunch, and introduce themselves to the other council members. As they eat, Miyuki and Tatsuya notice that Watanabe made her own lunch. Miyuki suggests that she and Tatsuya bring their own lunchboxes to school from then on. Seeing their exchange, Ichihara, the treasure, comments that they both act like lovers. Tatsuya says that if Miyuki wasn't his sister, he would have wanted her as a lover. This causes her to blush, but Tatsuya cuts short her joy by saying he was only joking. President Sagusa asks Miyuki to be the first-year rep for the council, and Miyuki, in a show of unfiltered sisterly love, asks if she can bring her brother along for the ride. Again, they are wary since he is a weed student. They emphasize that it's a rule that only blooms can be elected as part of the student council. Watanabe, the head of the disciplinary committee, says that he can be part of it, even though he isn't in bloom. Before Tatsuya makes his decision, the end of lunch bell rings. They meet with the council again after school, where they are introduced to Vice President Gyobu Hattori, who is opposed to a weed being on the council in any capacity. Watanabe states her case, saying she wants him because of his brain and skill in reading activation sequences. She is also against discrimination towards Course 2 students and hopes that can change over time. Miyuki adds that her brother will do well and even hypes him up. Hattori still isn't convinced, so Tatsuya calmly challenges him to a simulated battle, saying that although he doesn't even want to be a member, he will defend his sister's claim. They proceed to the training, where Tatsuya finishes him in one move, causing Hattori to fall down like a pathetic loser, proving his skill to the council. The fight between Hattori and Tatsuya has just ended, and everyone is impressed with Tatsuya's excellent combat skills. After a lot of magical babble and mumbo-jumbo, Tatsuya explains he used ninjutsu to dodge the attack and scion waves to cause Hattori to hallucinate himself being damaged. The short, orange-haired secretary marvels at this silver gun, which is made by a mysterious engineer whose real name and location are a mystery. After some more talk and gibberish about technique, Hattori wakes up from his slumber and apologizes to Miyuki, but he still decides to ignore Tatsuya. Tatsuya then meets two members of the disciplinary committee, Kutaro Tatsumi and Midori Sawaki. They initially worry about him being a weed, but when Watanabe tells them that he beat Hattori in an official duel, they welcome him to the force, even with the knowledge that he is a Course 2 student. At home, Tatsuya recalibrates Miyuki's CAD, to which she decides it's the perfect time to press her melons up against Tatsuya. She proceeds to make forward advances as she gets angry at him for looking at the other girls at school and then attacks him as punishment. Tatsuya collapses and seems to reboot himself after what Miyuki did, and he also appears to have forgotten the whole altercation. Miyuki ever so sweetly apologizes, saying she went too far with her prank. Now, in the school festival, the disciplinary committee is dispatched to police it. Morisaki, the Course 2 student who disliked Tatsuya, is surprised to see that Tatsuya is carrying two CADs at once, and, like a pampered bully, says there's no way Tatsuya can wield two CADs at once. Inside the school gym, a fight breaks out between the Kendo and Kenjutsu clubs. The first fight is won by the female Kendo club member, so the Kenjutsu guy angrily breaks out his magic sword, a potentially lethal spell, and attacks her. Tatsuya steps in to disarm and knock him out. The rest of the Kenjutsu club attack him in turn as the Kendo manager looks on, muttering, "How interesting," like some self-proclaimed secret genius. Tatsuya, as a member of the disciplinary committee, informs Mari and the other student council members about his encounter with Kirihara and how he handled the situation. The members praise his actions, with Tatsuya taking particular notice of Jumonji, quickly assessing him as one of the major clan members. Later, during dinner with his friends and sister, the two siblings act much closer than ordinary siblings, prompting teasing from the group. Tatsuya then reveals that he has developed a technique for jamming magical sequences. His sister praises his genius, smugly commenting that no one could defeat him. Tatsuya advises his friends to keep the technique a secret since it could potentially undermine the entire framework of their magic system, being a cost-effective alternative to an expensive tool used for the same purpose. The next day, while walking around campus, Tatsuya receives a call about a brawl and rushes to the scene to stop the fight, only to be ambushed by an unknown attacker. He manages to fend off the attack and attempts to pursue the assailant, who escapes. Later, Mibu approaches Tatsuya, asking to speak with him. Her approach makes Miyuki suspicious that Mibu might have an interest in her brother, acting like a jealous girlfriend as she pouts. Tatsuya reassures her, saying it will be just a friendly chat, and suggesting Mibu might want to invite him to join the kendo club. He meets up with Mibu at the library, where she does indeed invite him to join the kendo club. Tatsuya presses her on her true motives, and she reveals her desire to form an organization of non-magic users to combat discrimination. Tatsuya is skeptical of her intentions and asks pointed questions, causing Mibu to create a scene. He tells her to come up with a more compelling reason for her cause and speak to him later. During lunch with the other student council members, Mari teases Tatsuya about his discussion with Mibu, suspecting it to be romantic, especially as rumors circulate that Mibu asked Tatsuya out. This leaves Miyuki in her Ice Queen mode, demanding an explanation from her brother. Tatsuya quickly calms her down and tells the group about Mibu's goals. They all suspect she might be manipulated by another party. Tatsuya wonders if Blanche, a well-known anti-magic organization, might be behind it and decides to wait for Mibu's response before deciding on how to proceed. Mizuki is intrigued by Tatsuya's processing abilities, despite his low practical skills, and wonders how he manages to excel. Tatsuya explains his focus on the study of energy production through magic, which inspires Mizuki to set her own goals, causing her excitement to draw attention. After leaving Mizuki, Tatsuya meets with Mibu to hear her decision. After a brief conversation, he is unsatisfied with her reply and declines her offer to join the kendo club. Shortly after, a group of second-year students called the Sympathizers Alliance, led by Mibu, took over the broadcast room to protest discrimination between magic users and non-magic users. The student council and disciplinary committee members gather to handle the situation. Mari wants to use force, but Jumonji favors a more peaceful approach. Tatsuya arrives with Miyuki, and after being updated on the situation, calls Mibu to assure her they are open to discussions and promises her safety will not be compromised. Meanwhile, Miyuki is more concerned about why her brother has Mibu's personal number, causing Tatsuya to feel the chill in her voice. Mibu and her group soon emerge from the broadcast room and are immediately captured by the disciplinary committee members. Mibu accuses Tatsuya of betraying her, but Mayumi intervenes, pressing for their release and expressing a desire to listen and negotiate with Mibu. However, the negotiations reach a stalemate as neither party can identify effective changes to eradicate discrimination. Later, Mayumi informs Tatsuya and Miyuki about her decision to hold a public forum after school the next day to better understand the other students' feelings and use the broader student body's input to find a desirable solution. She confidently assures Tatsuya that she will never lose a logical argument, and he decides to trust her judgment. Later, Tatsuya catches wind of Kino being assertive, displaying typical toxic masculinity. During his training, Tatsuya mentions the situation to his teacher, who provides more information about Kinoi, revealing he is the younger brother of Blanche's leader. This revelation makes Tatsuya suspicious of Kinoi. The next day, the public forum begins, with Mayumi opening the discussion and quickly winning the hearts of the students, reaching an agreement that ends the protest. As the students applaud, terrorists suddenly target the school, setting off explosions around the campus. The student council and disciplinary committee swiftly responded to the terrorist attack, easily handling the situation but soon realizing it was merely a distraction. Miss Ono, the school counselor, informs the group that the terrorists' real goal was to steal confidential magic-related information stored in the school's library. She asks them to give Mibu a chance, as she is manipulated into her actions. Tatsuya declines, claiming Miss Ono is too lenient on her. Leo opposes Tatsuya for being too callous, but Tatsuya leaves to thwart the terrorists from achieving their goal at the library. He manages to defeat all the enemies in the library, encountering Mibu, who had a discussion with Miyuki, but Mibu escapes. Tatsuya reassures Miyuki that Mibu won't get far. While escaping, Mibu is confronted by Enka, who defeats her after a heartfelt clash of swords, giving Mibu a small boost to her ego, as Enka is from the prestigious Shiba family. Later, they capture Kino, and they plan to use a truth serum to uncover the location of Blanche's base. They visit Mibu in the hospital, where Tatsuya presses her, and she confesses she felt discriminated against by Mari, who had previously dismissed her coldly when Mibu asked to spar. Mari clears up the misunderstanding, and Tatsuya comforts Mibu, deciding to take down the remaining members of Blanche himself. Mibu believes he made this decision for her, still seeing herself as a damsel in distress, but Tatsuya reveals his true motivation. He doesn't want dangerous people threatening the area where he and his sister live. His friends and sister offer to assist him. Jumonji asks how Tatsuya intends to gather the necessary information, and Tatsuya remarks that Miss Ono will provide it. She enters and gives them the details they need. The group then plans their operations and volunteers for the mission. Kirihara, who had been eavesdropping on their conversation, asks Jumonji to let him join the mission. He couldn't confess his feelings to Mibu, but he can't hide his rage against Blanche. After some scrutiny, Jumonji allows him to join out of respect for Kirihara's feelings and his bulging masculinity. Upon reaching Blanche's location, the group strategizes their plan and assigns roles. They split into their teams according to the plan as they breached the location. Tatsuya and Miyuki encounter several members of Blanche, including their leader Hajime, Kino's brother. Hajime tries to persuade them to join his cause and attempts to hypnotize Tatsuya, but Tatsuya counters, canceling the spell and realizing it is the same method used on Mibu. Seeing no escape, Hajime attempts to flee, but Tatsuya chases him, leaving the other members of Blanche to Miyuki. She freezes all of them nearly to death for daring to target her precious Onai-chan. While fleeing from Tatsuya, Hajime is cornered by other members of the group. He tries to use a jamming device to stop Tatsuya from defending himself, but Tatsuya remains unaffected, killing all the attackers. Realizing he has no chance of victory, Hajime attempts to flee once more but is intercepted by Kirihara, who slashes his hand in anger over Hajime's manipulation of Mibu, leaving him in despair and ending his escape. After handing over the remaining Blanche members to the police, Tatsuya visits Mibu in the hospital to inform her that neither she nor Kinoe will face prosecution, as it has been determined they were under Hajime's mind control. As Tatsuya leaves her room, a member of the Yotsuba clan, to which Tatsuya and Miyuki belong, appears to receive an update on his actions. Tatsuya reports that he acted in his capacity as Miyuki's guardian, and the servant reports this to a senior clan member who is content with Tatsuya's loyalty as long as he remains Miyuki's guardian. Mibu's father approaches Tatsuya afterward, thanking him for helping Mibu and promising to keep Tatsuya's covert military abilities a secret. The atmosphere among the group cools down as they have overcome many challenges. The friends gather in the hospital lobby, engaging in hearty conversations and teasing each other while celebrating Mibu's discharge from the hospital. On their way back, Miyuki teases Tatsuya, saying he doesn't need to attend school for her sake. He reassures her that he is content with his current life and quite enjoys it, using the moment to suggest they return to their ordinary lives as they walk home. It's the 12th of July and Tatsuya and Miyuki are at Kokonoi Temple, where Miyuki is training with Kokonoi Yakumo for the Mirage Bat the 9 Schools competition. Kokonoi is making balls of light in the air for her to target. Suddenly, Tatsuya's spidey senses detect a presence and challenge an interloper who is revealed to be Ono Haruka. She exchanges pleasantries with Yakumo. Tatsuya is initially on guard until Yakumo vouches for her, stating she is one of his students. Haruka asks if Miyuki is participating in the 9 Schools competition, and Yakumo confirms she is competing in both Ice Pillar's Break and Mirage Bat. Tatsuya comments her concealment magic was impressive, and he concludes she is a BS magician, though she takes offense to the term. She asks him to keep her status secret, and Tatsuya agrees in exchange for being informed ahead of time if any issues like the trouble with Blanche occur again. At school, Tatsuya's class dominates their opponents in physical education class, the girls having come to watch the match and put on a cheerleader display. After the match, Tatsuya and Leo go over to speak with their classmate, Yoshida Mikihiko. The three make introductions, having not really spoken before, and Mikihiko admits he'd been meaning to speak to the pair. Enka joins the trio, along with Mizuki, and reveals she and Mikihiko are childhood friends. Enka's outrageous choice of attire flusters Mikihiko, leading Leo to make a remark that angers her and earns him a kick. At lunch, the Shiba siblings join Mayumi, Mari, Suzune, and Azusa in the student council room. There, they discuss the 9 Schools competition over lunch. As the school's honor is on the line, the student council takes the lead in the preparations, choosing the contestants based on merit. Mayumi comments that though they have the athletes decided they are short of engineers. They have Azusa and Isori Kei from the second year, but few third years to choose from. Mayumi asks Suzuno, but she declines, citing she lacks the skill. Tatsuya tries to leave, but Azusa suggests he be an engineer, as he's the one who adjusts Miyuki's CAD. Mayumi is thrilled with the idea, and when Tatsuya tries to object, Mari and Miyuki convince him to participate. The 5 agree to meet after school. A bit later, Azusa gets excited looking at Tatsuya's silver model holster and brings up the genius engineer Taurus Silver, whom she admires until she's reminded that she has to finish her assignment. Suzune brings up a study that tried using anti-magic to cancel out the spells, but failed, and the researchers didn't know why. Mayumi casually asks Tatsuya, and he states the experiment was fundamentally flawed because unless the entire sequence is erased, anti-magic won't stop the buildup and instead caps it out early. Tatsuya's knowledge shocks the others. The bell sounds, ending lunch and leaving Azusa in a panic. After school, Mayumi nominates Tatsuya to the engineering team, but the appointment is objected to by some of the athletes due to his Course 2 status. Jumonji Katsuto suggests having Tatsuya demonstrate his ability to reassure people by adjusting a CAD. Kirihara Takeyuki volunteers to act as the user for the test CAD. In the lab, Tatsuya confirms the task is to copy the data to the competition CAD without altering the sequences. He comments he doesn't recommend copying the settings from different models, so he will take a safety-first approach, and once he has Kirihara's measurements, he proceeds to manually enter the data at breakneck speeds that would leave Sonic wide-eyed. It shocks the audience, and leaves the other engineers in awe at his advanced skills, which Isori Kei explains to Chiyoda Kanen whilst they watch. He has Kirihara test the CAD, and he reports it feels absolutely natural. Some of the others complain his methods are too irregular, but Azusa says she supports his appointment as the skills he demonstrated were so advanced that she couldn't hope to mimic them. Hanzu points out the test CAD has lower specs, yet Kirihara couldn't feel the difference and supports Tatsuya's appointment. Katsuto agrees with Hanzu and settles the discussion. At home, Tatsuya receives a call from Kazama Harunobu. Kazama addresses Tatsuya as a special officer, meaning the line is secure. Tatsuya compliments their tech bro abilities, and Kazama comments, Tatsuya's security is far too hardcore for a civilian home. Tatsuya asks the reason for the call. Kazama informs Tatsuya that the Third Eye CAD's overhaul is completed and ready for testing. Tatsuya states he'll head over in the morning, missing school as he'll be too busy on Sunday. Kazama mentions Tatsuya is participating in the 9 schools competition and mentions there has been suspicious activity by an international crime syndicate in the area near the southeast Fuji training area where it is being held. At midnight, Miyuki brings Tatsuya, who was working, some coffee wearing her delicious outfit for Mirage Bat. Miyuki shows it off and Tatsuya compliments her when she notices he's floating and realizes the spell for flight magic has been completed. Miyuki showers Tatsuya with praise and tells her he'll be taking it to FLT on their next day off for testing, but wants her to test it first. She activates the CAD and confirms it's working well while flying around the room. Alright crew, we're done here. If you enjoyed the ride, drop a like and subscribe. Stay fresh, and see you next time.